Alright, what's up everybody? Joe Dobby here with the deck profile that I actually have um, for the deck that I used at the Pro Play Games Regionals. And it's super fun. I'm actually loving it, guys. It's my black Zwart, or Omnimon Zwart. I guess I want to say turbo deck, but it has some control elements in it, which I think really um, bring out the best out of being able to just turbo in a Zord and deal some damage. So, first things first, let's go through the eggs. We've got a Kapurimon. So 4 copies of Kapurimon here. When your Digimon has reboot, it has another 1000 DP. It's a super cool card. I don't actually see myself using it very often. The eggs are really just for extra draw here. But the reboot, extra DP from the reboot kind of helps when I can't get into Zwart. That way my Digimon in this deck that have reboot can actually have that extra DP to kind of swing over things, really. So that's pretty good. And then next, we're running the 1 copy of Kaimon. Based on the experience at the Pro Play Games tournament, I might actually run 4 Kaimon and 1 Kapurimon, because I'm noticing that I'm not actually swinging with my reboot pieces. I'm mainly waiting to like get into that Zwart or Omnimon Zwart and then swinging big. So this memory gain can actually benefit me when I'm in that situation. Now we're going into the rookies here, guys. I love this rookie so much. This rookie saves black decks, guys. The 4 copies of Toyagumon, end of your opponent's turn as an inheritable skill. If your opponent didn't attack with a Digimon this turn, you trigger draw 1. So the more of these you have on the board with blockers on top of them, for example, the more you're just able to draw, because blockers pretty much cut your opponent's attack power in half, because it is stopping you know, a whole Digimon from being able to swing. So if your opponent's if you have that blocker out early game and there's a Toyagumon underneath, you're actually able to prevent any swings, which actually get you some extra draws, which is really, really powerful for this. And next, we are running 4 copies of Godziman. I do love Godziman as an early blocker to prevent any early swings into my security, because this is a rather slower deck that really needs to see its Omnimon Zwart pieces, so that's why I run 4 of him. Next, y'all, we are actually going into 4 copies of Commandremon, and the reason why I'm running 4 copies of Commandremon is because it's very important in black decks to just be able to control your opponent's memory gauge whenever you can, and I think that Commandremon is very important here. Being able to put your opponent to 1 until you're willing to put them to a 3 or 4 is very important. Like, you got to be able to control it on your own terms, and I think being able to drop the Commandremon for very, very low cost of 2 allows you to kind of spread your board out just a little bit more to prevent further damage and to set up your next place. 2 copies of Chuman to round out the rookies at 14. And during all turns, your opponent can't gain memory except with tamer effects. Very, very important here if you're running a lot of Digimon now in BT5 have like gain a memory when you evo. So like, for example, the Greymon and the Garurumon that was out in the set, and being able to stop things like that, stopping Lilith Loop as well by just dropping a Chuman can be really pivotal. Of course, Chuman doesn't really last that long against Lilith Loop because of all the options available, but still a really good card to have to slow your opponent down generally. Next, we're running 4 copies of Dark Tyranimon. So 1 cost to evo, 5k blocker, generally for only early game blocking ability, mostly for the 1 cost to evo, because I can go up into what I need to go up in order to proceed with my win condition, and I can do it very efficiently with only 1 memory cost to evo. Next, guys, we're running a whole 4 copies of Tankmon. So Tankmon's really cool, another 1 cost to evo, 6k DP. I'm trying to run a lot of 6ks and over for level 4s and up, because Lord Nightmon's a thing, and being able to control or confuse your opponent at least, or have them think a little bit harder when they're dropping those DP reduction pieces can be really big. 2 copies of Mechanorimon. The reason why is I'm not swinging with any of my level 4s, guys. I'm actually not swinging at all in this deck. until I get to my Zwart, generally, which is why it's very important that I have some key stall pieces here, like the 2 copies of Mechanorimon and all my other blockers that you've seen this far. But very powerful Digimon. It can't attack, but it's only 4 cost to hard play. And during your opponent's turn, when this Digimon blocks something and deletes a Digimon through battle, and it survives, you can actually unsuspend it, so it's very powerful. So it can pretty much just block everything that Rookie Rush tries to do. So I love it for that. Next, guys, we're running 3 copies of Warmonzeemon. Once again, you want to get into Zwart and you want to get there quickly. So 2 cost to Evo is really strong. 5 cost to hard play is amazing too, because it's not that bad. You don't need a lot of inheritables on the Zwart, though they help. Which is why the Warmonze is really big here, because you're that much closer to getting to your win condition when you have to hard play him during times when you're not necessarily at the best hand states. Next, 3 copies of Andremon 7k blocker. Very good target for Omnimon Zwart, because not only do you lose Omnimon Zwart when you play cards like Digimon Fusion, but you can actually bring out blockers or any level 5 or lower Digimon with a play cost of 8 or less. So Andremon's almost a no-brainer for that pick, and it's worked out extremely well. The number of blockers that I'm able to bring out safely is ridiculous, and I love it. Next, running 2 copies of Rajaludaman. Rajaludaman is mainly a tech choice. I wanted to run the tournament Romo Informon, which is an on-play trigger D-Digivolve 1. Works really well with Zwart, but this works well nonetheless, because I can actually bring it out, go into a next Zwart potentially, and then if this Digiball is level 7, you actually trigger D-Digivolve 1 on one of your opponent's Digimon. So with Omnimon being able to get into, with Omnimon Zwart being able to get to where he is through the use of Mega Digimon Fusion, you can actually reuse this skill before Omnimon Zwart goes to the bottom of your deck. So there is some advantage to doing that, and he can actually come back because the sources just get trashed. So really cool. Next, guys, running 3 copies of MELGA. Love this card. 11 cost to play, 3 cost to Evo. Unfortunately, it's only 11 KDP, but what can you do? It's got reboot, and when Digivolving, trigger D-Digiburst 2. And when you're D-Digibursting twice, it's awesome because you can either you first have to try and delete a Digimon with a play cost of 6 or less, and if you can't do that, you just trash the top of your opponent's security. I love that effect. It's just like, you can't do this? Okay, we'll just trash your sec and punish you that way. So it's very good. And it's a great kind of way to remove something before you get into Omnimon Zwart. It's also only 3 cost to Evo, which is fairly efficient. Next, guys, I'm playing 2 copies of High Andremon just to once again get to that Zwart as fast as I can and as efficient as I can. Being able to provide continuous threats throughout the game is very important, but mainly wanting to stall until I get to pieces like High Andremon. Sometimes your opponent's going to put you to 1, you can get to 2, and High Andremon might be enough to win you the game, literally. So I had to run the 2 there. Next, guys, last but not least, I'm running 1 copy of Greymon, because Greymon is a pretty great way to round out your turn. When you play the Zwart, you can bring out level 5s. So if you're bringing out a Warmonze and an Andremon, or whatever you have available, you can just Digivolve over that into the Wargrey to end your turn, and you can set up your next Zwart while making sure that you have that Wargrey blocker out. That's really good, because it protects you when you lose your level 7. Next, guys, we're gonna go hard here. I am playing pretty much 4 copies of the Omnimon Zwart, which is super awesome. You have to see Zwart. Another cool thing about running him at 4 is he can be in security, which can kill a lot of things that don't have jamming. So that's very good. And when Digivolving, you trash the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can play 2 level 5 or lower Digimon with a play cost of 8 or less from Trash with a Payments cost, as long as they're purple and black. So it works very well in this black deck, because I can bring out a plethora of things like Andremon, Rajaludaman, Warmonzeemon, and everything below them, and it's very powerful. So it's super cool. And when attacking, I can actually return the Mega back to my hand to delete an opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 12 or less. That is a lot of things. As long as they're unsuspended, I can pretty much delete it, and I can be swinging and getting double value for that. So that's really awesome. And here is the star of this deck. This card saves this deck so much, and I love it. So I have to run him at 4. Guys, it is 4 copies of Matt and Tai Ishida. Now, the reason why I run the full 4 copies is you absolutely have to see Matt and Tai. And if you hard play one, chances are you'll see one in security, and that'll give you a 4 memory boost if your opponent has level 6s or higher Digimon pretty much at the start of your turn. So a lot of times I'm put to 1, but I actually go to 5. And if I have a level 5 in Raising, that's literally enough for me to go into a Mega. It's actually enough for me to go Warmonzeemon and then a Mega, and then Mega Digimon Fusion into Zwart, and then I start to become very threatening. And the more mats I have, the more security checks Omnimon Zwart has. So he could actually be an OTK deck here, making him very, very awesome. Like, I can get an OTK Mega Fusion Zwart deck, Zwart turn, before I pretty much just have to send him to the bottom of the deck. But I might not actually have to do that, and you'll see in the end why I don't have to send him to the bottom of the deck all the time. Next, we're running 3 copies of Mega Digimon Fusion, so if I go from a level 6 to a level 7, as long as I play this card, I can reduce the cost by 6, so that's literally Omnimon Zwart and majority of level 7s. So that actually allows you to stay and keep your turn, maximize the level 7 advantage, do it as best as you can before the level 7 has to unfortunately go back to the bottom of the deck. Very good because it's 0 cost. If it costs memory, it would be like a really bad card, but it's amazing. That said, one of the combos here is Breath of the Gods. Breath of the Gods is 2 cost, which actually gives a Digimon reboot, and during your opponent's actually, one of my Digimon will gain the effect of this Digimon can have its DP reduced or return to its owner's hand until the end of your opponent's next turn. So not only am I protecting my Omnimon Zwart from being Mega Digimon fusioned or sent to the bottom of the deck that way, but until the end of that turn, my opponent, my Zwart cannot be Kakaitis Breath. It cannot be Lord Nightmon, and it stays for more checks with the Mat and Tai. I've actually pulled this off. I think in 5-6 rounds, I managed to pull this off a good like 3-4 games out of the best of 3s. That's really enough, and it's all you need to see how effective it is. Like, it's literally a game-winning card, but it's not a card you need or a card you look for, which is why I run it at 1. But that said, guys, that's the deck. Let me know what you think. Don't hesitate to subscribe to my YouTube and all that. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Let me see if you've tested it yourself. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? What changes did you make? And until I see you guys next time, peace.